I wanted to do a second short video on another observation, specifically with the LG24 coil, and that has to do with the beast mode and the ground balance 1 and 2, specifically the second ground balance. What I'm seeing is when I do the first ground balance and don't do the second ground balance, the beast mode with the LG24 coil performs quite well, surprisingly well. If I perform the second ground balance, whether it's in the same spot as the first or over the few little hot rocks that I've got in my test bed, I'll get a good second ground balance. It's within a few points of the first ground balance usually, but the performance on the targets is seriously degraded. I find that quite odd. It doesn't happen with the larger LG30 coil. It doesn't happen with the LG28 coil or the LG35. So the larger coils, I'm not really seeing this. It may still be there slightly, but it really shows up on the LG24. I haven't tested the LG15, but I'm sure it would do the same thing. I don't use it enough. Trying to get any depth, it's always just for separation. So here we are in beast mode. I've already noise canceled it. 22 sensitivity. Two recovery. That's the thing about beast mode. You can run the recovery right down to 1 and it still performs excellent. The lower you go, the better it does depth wise. But you have a little more response from hot rocks at the lower settings, and you get it will give you an higher tone on a deeper, lower conductive target quicker with a low recovery than a higher recovery. So they're all interrelated. Iron rejects at 3. That's kind of my standard. 6 audio gain. The audio gain makes a big difference on the beast mode. You can run the sensitivity quite low as long as you got the audio gain up. So let's get a good ground balance. It does go to 0 every time you fire up the Legend from a cold start. It goes back to 0, so you have to re-ground balance. So let's do the first ground balance. .34. The second ground balance is still at 0, so we'll leave it there and have a listen. The 6-inch brass cuff button. Good audio, but you just get a 1 for ID, so a ground number. 6-inch US copper set. A little bit of iron tone. But I found that as long as you are getting a good high tone consistently, if a little iron tone creeps in, it's still a good target. So there's the 8-inch US nickel. Hear that iron tone? But you've got the good tone without interruption. It's consistent. That's the nickel at depth. There's a nail. See how much lower a tone it is? And you get a 2 on it. Not a 1. So there's another little clue. The clad quarter at 8 inches. Still a 1. Let's see, we lost the iron tone now. Clock frame, easy. And you get an idea on this one because it's big enough. Still a little iron tone in it though. and the 10-inch 50 caliber Mineralized. A little softer, but there, solid. And a 1. So it hits every one of those targets just fine. Let's do the second ground balance. Over the same spot. 35. First ground balance is 34. So they're almost the same. So there's just a 1-point window between them. You wouldn't think targets would drop through that much, but we haven't changed anything else. Cuff button. Still gets it, but not as strong. The zinc copper 6-inch scent. See, that's not near as good as before. The nickel at 8-inch nickel. I think we got more iron tone now than we did before. The 8-inch quarter. There again, obviously not as good as it was with the second ground balance at 0. The brass clock frame at 8 inches. Still with good ID. And the 10-inch 50 caliber lead Minier bullet. Kind of sketchy. So let's turn the second ground balance back to 0. Let's reset it. First ground balance is still 34. Same bullet. That's better. Here's the quarter. It was kind of sketchy. The nickel. And the 6-inch copper US cent. That one was kind of iffy also. With the second ground balance at 0, it's much better. And the 6-inch cuff button. There's a few hot rocks scattered through here. If I do the second ground balance, it will get rid of most of that. So it's a trade-off. .28 on the second ground balance. So that takes most of the response out of them. But it sure kills the performance on the deeper targets, which is the whole reason for detecting. On the hot rocks, reset the second ground balance to 0. It's better perhaps to just raise the coil or drop the sensitivity. That gets rid of the hot rocks pretty much, and you can raise the coil up and they completely go away. But on the 8-inch quarter, again with the second ground balance back at 0, hot rocks are not much of a problem. Sensitivity is down low at 18. and the 1/8" quarter. Much softer, but with the audio gain at 6, you can still hear it. And you can raise the coil up a little bit, but a target versus a hot rock, see how thin they sound? That's just something that you're going to have to deal with and learn about. So that's the second little observation that I've made working in the minerals with the new V1.15 update between deep target adjustment and the beast mode. They're both quite useful, still a lot to learn about them. But when you're hunting in the minerals, there's a little more that you have to take into consideration and be mindful of to be successful. It's a lot to keep up with, but I hope that helps. Hopefully we'll get some rain and cooler weather here for too long and get back out and do some serious hunting instead of just piddling around here and there, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, hunting an hour and a half before it gets too darn hot. But you do what you got to do to find some targets. Hope this helps. Thank you very much for watching.